main event starts.
All right, black and white sports reporters. Well,
if this was the end, nobody would still be talking about it. But that is not how things work in today's WNBA. You're tuning into a sport that has rules, regulations, and apparently a completely separate set of survival laws. Back to the video.
Angel Reese, PAIGE BUECKERS from All-Star Weekend made themselves a wager. All right? And it was on the Dream Wings game. Did it on video, cash in hand. The WNBA thought it was cute, and somebody put it up on their social media.
Angel Reese and PAIGE BUECKERS made a wager during All-Star Weekend on a Wings game. It was captured on video, cash in hand, and shared across social media. The moment drew even more attention when the league appeared to treat it as harmless fun and posted it on its own official accounts. In a professional league where sports betting is explicitly prohibited, that decision immediately raised questions about consistency, perception, and how certain situations are handled once they become public.
WNBA statement on deleted social posts featuring Angel Reese and PAIGE BUECKERS appearing to make a friendly wager on yesterday's Dream Wings game. Quote, while the social media post was intended to be lighthearted, WNBA players are well aware of the league's policies prohibiting betting on WNBA games and receive training every year to reinforcing those policies. We recognize that the post missed the mark.
The statement came later, acknowledging that the social media post was intended to be lighthearted while emphasizing that players are fully aware of the league's policies prohibiting betting on WNBA games and receive annual training on those rules. League officials admitted the post missed the mark, removed it shortly afterward, and addressed the situation internally. But the question lingering beneath the surface is whether a public admission caught on camera requires more than an internal conversation, especially when the league's own policies leave very little room for ambiguity.
And Angel Reese after the game, yeah, I'll be requesting my Apple Pay after this. Interesting. Reese later tweeted seemingly at BUECKERS after the game with another reference.
Reese later referenced the interaction publicly after the game, even joking about needing a digital receipt. What made the situation stand out was that none of it happened behind closed doors or away from cameras. It was not a private conversation in a locker room or a quiet exchange in a tunnel. It unfolded in plain sight, was captured on video, and quickly became part of the larger discussion surrounding how the league handles situations that appear to brush up against its own policies.
Betting of any kind is strictly prohibited under the WNBA's new CBA, signed before this season. Section 5, Article 14 in the CBA is dedicated entirely to gambling regulations. Subsections A and B prohibit fixing results and require players to disclose any betting offers made to them. Subsection C is the relevant.
To understand why this has created such a sharp divide, you have to look at the actual language of the current collective bargaining agreement, which was signed just before this season. Article 14, Section 5 is devoted entirely to gambling regulations. Subsections A and B focus on issues such as influencing game outcomes and reporting betting-related approaches, but subsection C is where the clearest line is drawn. It outlines the league's strict position on gambling activities involving WNBA games and establishes the boundary players are expected to avoid. That is why the video sparked so much debate. For some fans, it looked like a harmless joke between players. For others, the fact that it was recorded, shared publicly, and briefly amplified by the league itself raised questions about whether the situation deserved more scrutiny than a simple internal discussion.
Let me rehash those two words. Any player found by the commissioner after hearing to have been guilty of wagering directly or indirectly. So even if you want to be like, oh, they're joking, blah, 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 directly or indirectly is in the rule.
The rule does not leave much room for interpretation. It states that any player found by the commissioner, following a hearing, to have wagered directly or indirectly, or attempted to wager money or anything of value, on the outcome, score, or any other aspect of a WNBA competition can face significant disciplinary consequences. The key language is directly or indirectly and attempting to wager. Those phrases are what have fueled much of the debate. Even if the interaction was intended as a joke between friends, critics point out that the wording of the rulebook does not rely on intent alone. Instead, it focuses on the act itself, which is why some observers believe the situation raises questions that go beyond whether anyone involved was serious about the wager.
Money. Attempting to wager. Money or anything of value on the outcome, score, or any other aspect of any WNBA competition shall, in the sole discretion of the commissioner, be subject to a fine, suspension, and/or dismissal and disqualification from any further association with the WNBA.
The language of the rule becomes even more significant when you reach the penalty section. It states that, at the sole discretion of the commissioner, a player found to have violated the gambling policy may face a fine, a suspension, or even dismissal and permanent disqualification from any further association with the WNBA. These are not informal guidelines or suggestions. They are the written standards agreed upon by both the players and the league office through the collective bargaining agreement. That is why the debate has become so intense. Once the rulebook spells out potential consequences in language this direct, people naturally begin asking whether every situation is being evaluated under the same standard and whether public incidents that appear to involve wagering should receive more than a private conversation behind closed doors.
Pooh's post. Neither Angel Reese nor Paige Bueckers will be punished for alleged betting that can be seen on actual video on social media posted by the actual WNBA. Laughing my ass off at this.
Yet the immediate public outcome was no official punishment tied to the alleged betting incident that had been captured on video and circulated through the league's own media channels. That contradiction is what transformed what might have been dismissed as a minor social media misstep into a much larger credibility test. The rulebook outlines serious potential consequences for wagering or attempting to wager on league games. But the public response in this case appeared limited to removing the post and handling the matter internally. For critics, that gap between the written policy and the visible response became the real story. The debate was no longer just about the video itself. It became about whether the league applies its standards consistently, especially when a situation unfolds in full public view and involves content that was initially amplified through official league platforms.
Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Clark doing this on video, they'd be banned for life. The media would be everywhere. Notice how the media is not wanting to jump into this. Case in point, TMZ posted about this and then deleted it. They shared the video and then deleted it. That video's gone now. That share is gone now.
Look at how other leagues handle this exact category of infraction. In the NBA, NFL, and MLB, gambling-related violations often trigger immediate investigations and severe penalties, sometimes resulting in lengthy suspensions or even lifetime bans. That is why this situation attracted so much attention. When major outlets like TMZ reportedly picked up the footage and later removed their posts, it only reinforced the perception that everyone involved understood how sensitive the subject had become. Whether the incident was harmless, misunderstood, or something more serious, the reaction highlighted just how carefully professional sports leagues treat anything that appears to intersect with gambling rules and integrity policies.
No punishment. See, that's why we need a new commissioner. I mean, wow. So, was there really a wager? Or did someone with the league office think it was a great idea to make this up? BS, they should be fined in at least a one-game suspension. I mean, that's...
The core frustration for many observers is not simply that two players appeared to be joking around with cash in a video. It is the perception of selective enforcement. When a rule is written in clear and uncompromising language, choosing not to apply it, or appearing not to apply it, can create questions that extend far beyond the original incident. Those questions are not just about the players involved. They are about consistency, accountability, and whether the standards outlined in the rulebook are being enforced equally across every situation. Once people begin to see a gap between written policy and visible action, the discussion shifts from the incident itself to the credibility of the system responsible for policing it.
The rest of the season, the rest of her life, hell. Not enough. Suspensions. Gambling is illegal for any active player on a game, more in the game. You got assholes trying to take a victory lap, blaming Caitlin Clark supporters.
Some defenders of the players online tried to shift the blame toward outside fan bases, arguing that a lighthearted moment was being blown completely out of proportion. But that argument runs into an obvious problem. The spotlight did not appear out of nowhere. It existed because the league's own social media accounts chose to share the video with thousands of followers in the first place. Once an official platform publishes content, it stops being a private moment between players and becomes part of the league's public image. That is why critics argue the issue is not who noticed the clip. The issue is why the clip was promoted at all when it appeared to touch on a subject the league's own rules treat so seriously.
Any player found by the commissioner after hearing to have been guilty of wagering directly or indirectly, or of attempting to wager money or anything of value on the outcome, score, or any other aspect, Paige Bueckers and Angel Reese are guilty. Sorry, not sorry.
Let's return to the exact wording of that CBA section once more. Any player found guilty of wagering directly or indirectly, or attempting to wager anything of value on any aspect of a competition, is subject to discipline under the league's rules. The language is what keeps drawing attention because it appears so direct. There is no special clause explaining whether the participants were joking, laughing, or treating the situation as harmless fun. For critics, that is the entire point. Once a rule is written in absolute terms, people naturally begin asking whether the standard is being applied consistently. That is why the discussion has continued long after the original video was posted and removed.
It's a violation, directly or indirectly. Right, wrong, or indifferent. The rule takes the subjective nature out of it. Oh, it's open to interpretation. No, it's not. Directly or indirectly clears up all interpretation. Attempting.
That is why the subjective defense starts to fall apart under legal and structural scrutiny. The rule removes much of the guesswork by using broad language that covers direct wagers, indirect wagers, and even attempts to wager. Critics argue that those terms are written broadly enough to capture casual bets just as easily as serious high-stakes arrangements. If the policy only applied when everyone involved was completely serious, enforcement would become almost impossible because officials would have to determine intent rather than evaluate the conduct itself. That is exactly why leagues typically write these rules in such sweeping terms, to avoid turning every gambling-related incident into a debate over what someone was really thinking at the time.
The fact that they had this conversation between each other about a game involving money and a bet that in itself is a violation of said policy in the CBA. This is bullshit.
The real takeaway here is not just about a deleted social media post or a missed opportunity for discipline. It is about whether a league that is working to build mainstream credibility and long-term commercial legitimacy can afford to treat its own rulebook as optional when high-profile names are involved. That is the question sitting at the center of this entire debate. Rules only work when people believe they apply equally to everyone, regardless of popularity or status. If fans begin to think enforcement changes depending on who is involved, confidence in the system inevitably starts to erode. Whether you view the incident as harmless fun or a serious policy issue, the larger conversation is about consistency. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, subscribe for more breakdowns that cut through the noise, and let me know, should the commissioner enforce the CBA exactly as written, Or should moments that are clearly intended as jokes be treated differently?